Right, here's what's in store today. A lumpy 163 kilometres setting out from Monforte de Lemos. Just one official climb, the second category Alto Alensa, which oddly has the intermediate sprint 2 kilometres from the top. Plenty of unofficial climbs though, including a sharp little one at 2 kilometres to go and an uphill drag to the line in Luintra.
"34 seconds, the advantage that Matthias Frank carries towards the 10k to go arch. But the gap to Zeitz and Bakelants may be constant, but bit by bit he's gaining seconds on the red jersey group, which is of interest. Even though the roads now are flatter, as you can see, the steeper part of the descent is over, still snaking, broadly speaking, in a kind of false downhill direction.
Really is flat out here. You can see the sheer speed. I mean, there's little gaps opening up behind. It's a proper line out. So it would appear that Valverde or somebody in Movistar has ordered them to really give this everything.
8 kilometres to go. By my reckoning, there are around about 3 or 4 kilometres until the foot of this 2 kilometre length climb. Over the top of that, there'll be about another 2 kilometres, one of which is downhill, and then it's just a little bit of a kick up in the final kilometre towards the finishing line.
Which none of those things are good for Matthias Frank, and not even this straight piece of road now, because the peloton will just catch a glimpse as well of Matthias Frank, which will give them the fresh impetus to really close this down. I mean, let's see, there are still three riders in front of Valverde, so and another sort of 4 domestiques there for Movistar, because behind there's one sitting behind Atapuma as well. So that's one of the, I think it's Bart de Klerk from Team Lotto Soudal, and he's bleeding profusely, so someone's gone right over. I think he's the only rider to actually gone over the barrier, and another rider from Lampre Merida has been delayed. That doesn't look good at all. That's Christian Duracek from Lampre Merida. Those two riders then losing time. Let's see what happens here. It's Bart de Klerk has gone straight over the top. Yeah, that's been a big crash. There's been 3 riders involved in that Caja Rural in front, the Lampre rider Bart de Klerk for Lotto, and that's been a high-speed crash, so no wonder he's screaming slightly. But here you go, it ramps up again, and this is where he's going to lose a lot of time.
Yeah, this is a proper climb. It's not categorised, much like the last one was. It's nothing like as long as the last one, but I think it's a couple of kilometres, and I think it might be a pretty severe gradient. It's forcing him out of the saddle at the moment, and let's just keep one eye on those timings, but let's not read too much into them, because really it's what we see now with the cameras that's going to be more revealing than the information we're getting off the GPS.
As a TV motorbike comes by, that means Movistar coming up right up behind these 2 riders.
There we go, yeah.
So I think the peloton's just coming around that corner. So yeah, they're really on it now. So Movistar have to use up those 3 riders. If they want to set up Valverde for this win, these 3 riders now have to go full gas.
So that's Moto 3. They've still got a camera dedicated to themselves, but pretty soon he's going to sweep past Bakelants and Zeitz as JJ Rojas now sets the pace at the front for Movistar, with Alejandro Well, he peels off actually. So they're beginning to burn up their numbers, but they've got so much strength in depth here.
But they're down to their leaders now, so I think that's Castro Viejo, I think.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And so they've only got Moreno left after that, because I doubt this stage, if they're trying to set it up for a stage win, then you'd imagine it being for Alejandro Valverde, who from a group this big, a peloton this small, he would be one of the favourites if he really wants to go for it. We don't see him go for it so often these days, as he's become a GC rider, and he only really does compete in the really big classics. But if he wants to today, this is a perfect stage for him to win. But he's running out of teammates now.
Ooh, this is beginning to look laboured from Matthias Frank, and who can blame him? He attacked over the top of that penultimate climb, and he's got 5 kilometres to hold off this developing race behind him. Zeitz and Bakelants have only a few precious seconds to hang on to their advantage over this peloton. You can see Chris Froome sitting in happily in about 5th place there, and further up the road, well, there we go. That's Jose Mendes, who was in that original breakaway, the Portuguese road race champion. Gianluca Brambilla looking quite comfortable for Ethics Quickstep. He's an interesting rider. You couldn't rule him out today. And you couldn't bet against Ethics Quickstep getting themselves another stage win. Just watch out for him. Darwin Atapuma's in very well placed indeed, just sitting on the wheel of that Movistar train.
Contador as well, a little bit further back, just behind Chris Froome. But you can see now they've got Matthias Frank in their sights, but it's not over yet. I mean, he's going to drop down now, descend to the finish. But again, he's got this last kilometre, which is false flat, which is going to make it, which is the worst case scenario in this. He's been off. Normally, if it was descent flat road into the finish, he'd be able to hold them off. But it's going to be very hard with that last K. But again, Movistar have run out of teammates. There's only one left now. Unless Moreno or Nairo Quintana or Valverde attacks himself, it's going to be difficult to bring him back. Moreno's attacked, so that was the only tactic for him to do, really.
Well, Danny Moreno is off the front. He's 1 minute 35 seconds down on the red jersey of Darwin Atapuma.
As Simon Yates goes, I think Simon Yates on the right-hand side of the road. So Simon Yates is chasing that down. Chavez is waiting there marking. So you can see the leaders have sent off their number one lieutenants, if you like, to try and pull people out.
That's a smart move by Simon Yates, and he was a rider we hadn't considered for today's stage finish, but he's looking very comfortable, and he's absolutely flown across to the wheel of Danny Moreno, who himself has opened up a significant gap on the group of favourites. So good move by Simon Yates, and they'll be tracking down Matthias Frank very quickly here.
And now we understand what Orica Bike Exchange were doing. It would appear that maybe they called this for Simon Yates today, and if so, he's played a very cool card. He's just sat there and waited until the last possible moment and not panicked. And now he's in the driving position. The speed he came across from Moreno there was mighty impressive. So let's see what he does next.
Simon Yates, don't forget, started the day in 15th place, 2 minutes and 7 seconds down on Darwin Atapuma's red jersey. That's Matthias Frank, and bit by bit they are clawing their way across to him. And Yates here is benefiting from the work being done by Danny Moreno. I wonder if Moreno will encourage it. Well, who's that coming across from BMC?
I'm not sure, but it looks like Contador behind, though. There's a Contador coming up as well, so...
Yeah, that does look like the dancing style of Alberto Contador on the attack. That's good to see for this bike race. Matthias Frank, though, they haven't got to him yet. He's still got 10 seconds as Yates goes. So Yates has decided that Moreno would only get him so far, and he'd have to do the rest on his own. So Simon Yates now on the attack. He's second on the road, and he has got one man in his sights now, and that is the lone leader, Matthias Frank, who will be hurting at this point. Yates, though, will have been much fresher, and once again, he absolutely screams across that gap. First it was to Danny Moreno, now he's straight onto the wheel of Matthias Frank, and I don't think he can afford to hang around too long here. I think he's just got to go.
I think he's just going to have a little breather like he did with Moreno. He's jumping, if you like. He's jumping from one rider to another, and he's got to go. Now look at the speed. I mean, it's rare we see Simon Yates. Simon and his brother Adam Yates, they both have quite normally like this, a very big gear style. So when you see them pedaling fast, you know they're on.
Well, he's absolutely dropped Matthias Frank. I mean, that's understandable. Frank's legs will be beginning to feel like lead, but you can see Moreno as well is absolutely out of the frame, and I think that this is the move from Simon Yates. It's going to be interesting to see what comes up the road after him, but it's bits and pieces. There's no concerted effort. There's no one team working together to try and drag him back. As we look back to Danny Moreno to see how he can react, and now it's over to Simon Yates after his really very unsettling season for him that was interrupted, of course, by that suspension handed down to him after the irregularities with his asthma medication led to essentially a doping suspension, for which his team have owned up and offered full responsibility, but that would have totally knocked him, I think, Simon Yates, and dented his confidence. He was very public about how he said this had affected him, but he's back on a Grand Tour, and after Adam Yates and the Tour de France, now his twin brother Simon has his opportunity to shine and to remind us of just how much talent these two riders have at their disposal.
And he's out of sight. I mean, he's got put such a big gap. He's up there where that motorbike is. That's incredible. And you can see even from back to those three riders, he's got a significant gap, and that three riders currently has a significant gap on the chasing peloton. So this is looking very good for Simon Yates.
It is indeed. Well, he came from the Vuelta a Burgos, and he finished fourth on the final climb of the final stage, the Queen stage there, which was itself an indication that his climbing legs are functioning and that he is close to his best. 2 kilometres to go now for Simon Yates, and prior to that he was 7th in the San Sebastian, a race that his brother won the previous year.
And look at this, it's all stalled behind. Everyone's tired, there's no real domestiques left, there's no real Movistar, who would have been chasing for it. They have a rider up there with Moreno, Orica Bike Exchange similarly, BMC also. So the big teams that you would have considered to chase normally aren't going to chase because they have their key riders up there.
Through 1 kilometre, Simon Yates, and mercifully it doesn't fall on his head like the inflatable arch did on Adam in the Tour de France so famously, but he takes the applause of the crowd. He turns left-handed and he is beginning to ride himself into history today. I think his lead will be big enough. It doesn't really matter now, I don't think, what Ben Hermans and the rest of them can do, because that attack by Simon Yates was big enough, I think, for him to hold on all the way to the finish line. Hermans, though, is dangerous, but I think that gap has grown too far. That's
a big gap now, and it's I mean, that's a remarkable ride by Simon Yates, and hats off to him to have done that in such a short distance after what is clearly a very hard stage. Ellison there, they're all the splinters. That's not a chasing peloton. They're all the attacks from what's left of the peloton coming up to that group of 3.
Well, he's only won 2 professional wins to his name so far in this promising young career, Simon Yates. 3 years ago on the Tour of Britain, which first announced his promise on a summit finish, and then recently, since he came back from his suspension, he took a race called the Purebo Villafranca Ordisiaco Classica to make it 2 wins. But this one, when you compare them to both those wins, is in a different scale altogether. Simon Yates proves that there's 2 members of the Yates family who can go to the Grand Tours and can thrive after that famous white jersey, and for so long a podium position for Adam. It's over to you, Simon, as he takes his first Grand Tour win, I'm sure the first of many, and makes a major statement. And David will be moving himself up the general classification with that attack too, as Luis Leon Sanchez sprints for second place, and there'll be a battle between Ben Hermans and a rider from Trek Segafredo to come in third place. Is that Fellini? I think it might be. And over the line they come, Kenny Elissonde, Danny Moreno, a shake of his head. Matthias Frank held on well. And there comes Alejandro Valverde picking up the minor placings now. And Chris Froome safely in that group containing most of the favourites. And but no one on the day could get anywhere near Simon Yates after that brilliantly timed and very calm, cool execution and a wonderful stage win.
That was a brilliant stage win, and the way Simon Yates executed it was just sublime.
Well, if he isn't in the top 10 of the general classification, as he takes the congratulations of Esteban Chavez, who is still their big GC hope, of course, don't forget, but what a plan B they've got in Simon Yates. Simon Yates takes his first and maiden Grand Tour victory on the Vuelta a España.
And there it is. Simon Yates had 20 seconds on the line over Luis Leon Sanchez, who had a couple of seconds on the chasing group. Alejandro Valverde was the first of the big names in at 29 seconds, but all the other favourites were in there, although not all chasing, certainly not Esteban Chavez.
We wondered what Orica were doing. Now we have the answer.
Yeah, we tried for do the race hard, because we know it's really hard up and down. It's not a really nice road, all the bumpy last 60 kilometers, and Steve do the recon in this stage like 6 months ago, so he know it. We try for do the race hard, and you look the result. We take the stage, and this is fantastic for Simon. He's one guy of deserve this.
You know Simon well. Did we see the birth of a future champion today?
Yeah, for sure. He's not a future champion. He's one real champion now.
And we wondered, watching that, what Orica Bike Exchange were doing. We wondered whether you were just trying to make the race harder, but there was obviously a plan to go for the stage win as well.
It was a semi-plan. I wouldn't say it was a plan. I think it was a really nice way it turned out. My concern was that if someone like Valverde starts taking stage after stage, that's 10 seconds at a time, and I was really worried about how we could try to beat him in the finish. The idea of attacking near the finish was Simon's. In fact, he checked on the radio, made sure it was okay that what he was doing, and I said, yeah, I'll go for it. And not only did we not take the stage win away from Valverde, but we got the stage win ourselves.
Well, he hasn't finished a Grand Tour as best young rider like his brother, but then his brother hasn't won a Grand Tour stage. Simon Yates spoke to Daniel.
Simon, we spoke to you before the Vuelta. You were playing it extremely cool. You were saying you were here to learn, and here we are, a week in, not even a week in, and there you are riding away from all the big hitters and winning a stage.
Yeah, it wasn't really planned that in the final. Earlier in the day, we decided to make a hard race. It didn't look on paper to be the hardest of days, but on these roads here, they're extremely hard and very wearing on the legs. So we managed to make a hard race, and I managed to time my attack perfectly there in the final.
And Neil Stevens said that you asked to attack. Did you ask when you saw Danny Moreno going down the road, or was it even more premeditated than that?
Oh, well, I think you could see everybody was a bit just on the edge, you know. Nobody had the zip in the legs anymore. And once I saw him go over the road, there was not many guys to chase anymore. So I thought, maybe I'll go across to see where there is. And when I got to cross, I saw that even he didn't have the legs anymore. So I thought, yeah, this is my opportunity, and I went again.
We said you were cool before the Vuelta. You seem pretty cool about it now. I presume it hasn't sunk in yet, but how do you feel inside? Elated, I imagine.
Yeah, just really relieved also. Of course, extremely happy, and yeah, I would like to really enjoy this moment now.
Any dedications?
No. I'm just trying to take this all for myself because I've had a lot of hard months, a lot of difficulties, and I'm going to really enjoy this.
And that's as much as he's been saying about his 4-month suspension for an undeclared asthma inhaler. Following Simon Yates onto the podium was Darwin Atapuma, heading for his 3rd day in the red jersey, and only minor changes at the top behind him. Ruben Fernandez drops out of the top 10, moving Koenig, Kenyuk and Brambila up 1 place, and with the time bonus for winning the stage, Simon Yates moves into it.